Good morning. It's been a very interesting morning so far for me today. Very enlightening. Yeah. Um we'll get into that another day. Today we're going to talk about how I met Nick. Um I was 16 years old. I was still going to Kalkaska High School. I had a job at Lalone's little mom and pop restaurant. I was waiting tables there. And the owners thought it would be a good idea to hire somebody to help with the stuff in the kitchen, washing dishes, prep work, that kind of stuff. So they hired Kendall. Kendall had a boyfriend named Jesse, and Nick and Jesse shared a loft apartment above a pole barn on Jesse's dad's property. At the time, my life situation was shit from the get-go, okay? I was born into really awful circumstances with terrible parents. Well, I'll just put it out there. And going through school, I buried my face in my books. I wanted to go somewhere in life because they beat it into your head that in order to escape the chains of your past, you need to go to college and do all of this stuff. So I was very goal oriented and I was highly motivated. And I never really dated because I didn't want a dude to get in the way of that. I had too much real life shit going on in order to let myself meddle myself in all of these high school drama things that I just viewed as a waste of time. They were beneath me because they were irrelevant. I didn't care who Sally was screwing on the weekend or, what dude tapped whoever's ass after the football game. And I didn't care. I didn't want to deal with none of that. So I kept myself in my books like I was fucking supposed to. And Nick, it wasn't the first day. It was a couple of days had gone by, and Jesse and Kendall were trying really hard to hook me and Nick up. And I kept saying no. I even wore a ring, and I called it my get away from me loser ring because I thought maybe if guys thought that I was engaged, they would just not. Yeah, that don't work. It deterred honest men, not the grungy ones. But anyway, so months and months of them sitting for my entire shift at this restaurant. Even on the days that Kendall didn't work, even on the days that Kendall was off before me, they would still sit there for my entire shift. And then after Kendall got fired, it turned into him and Jesse would drop Kendall off at her job. They'd sit in my school parking lot, follow my bus to my job, and then sit there my whole shift, wait for me to get my ride home, and then follow me home. I should have seen this for what it was because it's fucking stalking. I should have been like red flags all over the place. But for me, in my skewed sense of reality and upbringing, I took it as a fucking flattering ass compliment. And I was like, well, I've never really dated. I tried a few times, but, high school boys don't work out because they're not serious. And, Nick is 4 years older than me, so he was already out of school. And I'd never seen somebody put that much effort into trying to date somebody. So I, being this flattered 16-year-old, it wore me down over a period of time. He did this for at least 6 months. Kendall was hired in the beginning of summer to help with summer rush, the tourists, the horseback riders, and all of that. And on my mom's birthday, which is December 4th. Pretty sure. It's been some years. I haven't talked to my mom in over 20 years. But on her birthday is when I finally went home with him for a night. And he woke me up the next morning, Alan, in my face. And Alan, first impressions, picture a South Park Canadian, and it has to be a Canadian because half their fucking face opens up when they talk. And hybridize it with a backwoods Tennessee hillbilly. And that's Alan. Yeah. Throw a little bit of Bobo the Clown without his makeup in there. It's the way his hairline is. I couldn't take this dude seriously every time I seen him speak. It was just all I could focus on was how much of his face was opening up when he uttered words. But Alan's in my face. Timmy's standing on one side of him. Nick is standing on the other side of him. And they're like, hey, we heard you were a waitress. You need to come make us coffee. And, I'm waking up and I'm like, what? I need to come make you coffee? Okay. And Nick's telling me he wants me to meet some people. And I'm like, well, okay. I don't really know anybody. I can go meet people. That's fine. And the night that I went home with him, I told him, I was like, this is not a relationship. Like, friends with benefits type situation. That's the plan. So he takes me over to his mom's house. And his mom gets out board games and alcohol. Now, I find this really strange because his mom, while I knew her, was not a drinker. So why in the fuck is she trying to get a freshly 17-year-old drunk? I kept giving my drink to Nick. I didn't want to get drunk. I didn't want to drink. That's never been my fucking scene. I have to be hyper aware of my situation, so I can't allow things to alter that. His mom was asking me really pointed personal questions, but I'm not going to lie. I've never been shy about telling people about my life story because I've always said, I firmly believe this, it is not your obstacles that define you. It is how you handle them that does. And I have already come out on top. I have beaten statistics over and over again, and that's okay. I'm kind of proud of that because I should, by all accounts, be dead. I should be a drug addict or an alcoholic of some kind. I'm not. And I found different ways to cope with my stuff, Writing was a good one. I did write for a while. But I secluded myself from people, and I still do. People scare the fuck out of me. I've stated that before. So I only allow people to get in so far, and I will hold them right there. I don't want to get attached to people because people use you when you get attached. Now, I talked to Jesse's dad about renting a place or renting from him, and I did for a week. And then Nick and I talked to his mom about possibly renting space there. And it didn't go well. I started noticing, I see through bullshit, okay? His mom is one of those hypochondriac people that likes to fake illnesses. And I tested this theory multiple times, and she proved me right over and over again. She liked to pretend like she was having seizures. Now, I've seen all kinds of different seizures, and each type of seizure is different, and it varies from person to person. But ironically, the only time that she would have a cluster of seizures happening was when her children started to go off and live their lives without including her. And poor Kim, that's his mother's name, poor Kim couldn't bear the thought that she wasn't going to get attention from her children anymore. So every time her kids made plans to go do something where she wasn't invited, all of a sudden, she would have a bunch of seizures that day. I started telling her kids to ignore her because they would like flock to her and like shake her and yell at her, "Mom, mom, mom." And I finally told them, I was like, leave her alone. Leave her alone. Ignore her. If they're seizures, she'll work it out of her system. If they're serious enough, she'll let us know. When the kids quit paying attention to her, they magically stopped happening. Ooh. Even her doctor pulled me aside one day when she had me take her up to the doctor's office because, her daughter had plans in Indian River with her mother-in-law, and that didn't include Kim. She was upset about it. So they made me take her up there. And her doctor pulled me aside and told me he doesn't think she's having seizures, but he can't prove that she is faking it because she holds her breath when they hook her up to the machines so the machines don't get accurate readings. So because they can't prove she's faking it, they just say, yeah, there's something anomalous going on and she collects disability for it. But because of that, I rubbed her the wrong way. Then she started trying to blame me for money that was coming up missing. And I'm not a fucking thief. I know what it's like to only have a little bit and then have somebody come in and fucking take that shit from you. You take pride in every single thing you own because you don't have much. And then somebody comes in and just ruined your whole fucking day by stealing from you. No thanks. I don't want to be the culprit for all that bad fucking karma. I have enough bad karma and bad luck in my life. I don't need any more. I don't need to put any more out there. But go ahead and blame me for it if it helps you fucking sleep at night because you need a patsy. Okay. Nick and I moved out. It was maybe a month and a half into us staying together. And it wasn't long after that I found out that I was pregnant, which really sucked because I did not want to be pregnant. I spent my entire childhood taking care of siblings. I didn't want to jump headlong into it. And with my own kids, I wanted time. I had goals. I had all these things I wanted to do to provide a better for my kids later, And I think I had just finished my birth control shot. They're like 3-month time span, but I had hit the limit for the amount of time that you're allowed to be on it. So I couldn't do that again. And I switched over to condoms and spermicide foam. And for those who don't know what that is, it comes in a can, shake the shit out of it. Really shake the shit out of it. Because if you don't shake the shit out of it, it doesn't work right. And you turn it upside down on this little plastic applicator thing that looks like an empty tampon tube. Fill it like a butane lighter. Foam goes in the tube. Put the can down. Squirt it up there. It's supposed to kill everything, okay? I was on my 3rd can of this. And I had already used this particular can a couple of times. It was a new can. Had no problems. And then this time I used it, it immediately started burning. My hoo-ha swelled up. It felt like a chemical burn. Never use that shit again. I don't know if there was something wrong with it, but looking back on it, I would be willing to bet that Nick did something to it. And I'll get into why. condoms. Years later, after a period of time, you move, you switch out where your furniture is, and sometimes you have a drawer or a cabinet and a piece of furniture that you just don't look in for years. Things are in there, but you don't remember what it is. Well, years later, I'm going through what used to be our nightstand after one of our moves because I wanted to utilize that space. And as I'm going through the drawer, I start getting this residue on my hands and I'm like really grossed out by it. I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm investigating, trying to figure out where it's coming from. And I see that whatever this is, it's seeped into the wood in the bottom of the drawer. So, I'm looking around and finally in the back of the drawer, there's a bunch of condoms from when we were first dating. And as I'm looking at them, I'm realizing there's holes poked in every one of these. This isn't like the package deteriorated or, being shuffled around. It got holes in them. No, because it was very deliberate. In the same places in each condom, there were holes, like somebody pushed a push pin through, not a needle, a push pin, because it was wider than a needle. 3 holes in each one, perfect triangle in every fucking one of them. And by the time I found them, I was already trapped. So he maneuvers in ways that keep him looking innocent in the moment. And then you look back on stuff later and shit starts making sense. Y'all are intelligent people. I'll let you figure it out. Weigh in on that for me. Do you think he sabotaged it? Because I'm pretty convinced he did. He knew that I didn't want kids. He knew that I was planning on leaving the state. I did not want to stay in Michigan. I am not a cold weather girl. I'm not. I hate this fucking white shit. It's pretty to look at for like a month and then it needs to go the fuck away. Give me the rain. I do not like my leg itches. I do not like the cold. My body temperature, it's like it doesn't know how to regulate itself normally. And I guess that's part of the CPTSD is not being able to let your body regulate it normally because you're always in a fucking hypervigilant mode. When I first told Nick I was pregnant, he seemed pretty upset about it. But looking back on it, I know who he is now. And I can tell that was like, it was an over-the-top act. It was one of those things like he wanted me to feel bad about it. Like it was my fault. Like I trapped him. Nope. Nope. I even offered to have an abortion because I wasn't ready. And he talked me out of it. But he didn't want anything to do with the pregnancy. I tried to get him to go to appointments with me. It was always this big problem. He usually sent his mom with me. And all right, pregnancy cravings. I'm going to talk about this one for a second. I was not allowed to have them. Nope. I was about 5-6 months pregnant and I had morning sickness pretty bad, but I wasn't allowed to take it easy. I wasn't allowed to get rest. I wasn't allowed to be ill. I was told to get up and go do something. It'll make me feel better. So I would go out in the garden and I would do yard work, puking in the yard. Or sitting out there watching him rebuild the same fucking engine 30 goddamn times because he needs an attaboy. He needs an ego boost. He needs somebody to stroke him a little bit. Yes, that was a thing. Now during this time, he was talking to Michelle behind my back. Just sneaky shit. And he tells me about let me go back to pregnancy cravings. I was like 5-6 months pregnant, and his mood made me not want to ask him for fucking anything. But finally, one day, I got up the courage, and I was like, you know what? It's the middle of the day. The store's only 2 blocks away. Neither one of us are working today. Will you please go get me some watermelon? I just want some watermelon. And I got my ass chewed for over 20 minutes about how he wasn't going to cater to pregnancy cravings and how it was all bullshit and how all these women just expected their men to just jump and drop whatever they were doing to go to the store and get them all this shit so that they could turn around and treat them like garbage and I was not allowed to have pregnancy cravings. So after having my ass chewed, I sat there and was like, don't worry, bro. I won't ask you for nothing. If I gotta beg for it, I don't fucking want it. So did I have cravings? Yes. Did I satiate them? No. I was working. I was working at a pizza shop in Central Lake, and I was going to school. I was trying to finish my high school, and it didn't work out that way. I ended up going into labor, and when my water broke, he was a basket case. I had packed everything up and made it easy. But he was flipping out, angry about it, middle of the night. Oh man, you ruined my shirt. The whole 9 yards, because I slept with his t-shirt between my legs that night. It was just something I did. But anyway, so he's all up in arms about it. He ends up taking me over to his mom's house instead of the hospital. His mom drives us to the hospital. We get there, my contractions are less than 5 minutes apart. My whole birthing story is a whole nother what the fuck story. We'll save that story time for another day. But when I had her, it was, I thought he was going to be an okay dad. I stayed at his mom's with him for a week or so after the baby was born, and I was recovering from an emergency C-section. She ended up being a breech baby, so I was down for that. And for 3 days, he let me rest, and, he took the baby and changed her diaper and fed her and bathed her and took naps with her on the couch, and, I rested. And while we were there, he was decent. But his mom had to get after him on more than one occasion to remind him that I just had surgery. Like, they just cut me open and ripped the baby out of me. So I wasn't going to be able to jump up and do all of the things he wanted me to do. While I was on maternity leave, from school and work, I ended up getting sick. Right after we brought her back to our house, though, I want to say this. Nick was frustrated because she was crying. I had just made her a bottle. I changed her diaper. I took her into him. It was early morning. He was awake in bed. I took her over to him. Here, you hang on to her while I go downstairs. I'm going to get some breakfast going and all that kind of stuff. So I'm downstairs and I'm getting everything ready in the kitchen, and she's crying. She's upset. And then I hear gurgling through the cries, and then silence. And I go to the bottom of the stairs and I'm like waiting for the next noise. And then she just lets out this blood curdling top of her lungs scream. So I go running up the stairs, and when I make it to the bedroom threshold, he was wiping her face off because he was angry with her because she wasn't latching on to the bottle. She was just crying. So he crammed the bottle in her mouth and then squirted her in the face with it. Now, that's what he told me he did. Because I asked him, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Well, as soon as he told me that, I grabbed my kid and I took her downstairs. I got this. I don't fucking need you around her. Go away. I made her feel safe, gave her her bottle, calmed her down, fed her, and then I put her on the floor for her tummy time. And I didn't let Nick around her for a while after that. I did it all. And of course, he comes over, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it, I feel guilty. No, the fuck you don't. No, you don't. This baby wasn't doing what you wanted her to do, so you were trying to do something to her. Got you. I had made it pretty clear that I was going to distance myself, that I didn't expect anything from him, that he could go. He did not. Fuck. I was hoping to keep these videos around like 30 minutes, and it's encroaching on that now. So after that, I ended up getting really sick. Really, really sick. We went out for dinner one night, and I did not feel good. Partway through dinner, I started getting a migraine, a bad one. And I went home. We tried to play some video games together. Spyro. I love Spyro. Cute little purple dragon. But anyway, I couldn't. My eyes were floating in my head or something. I couldn't focus on what I was looking at, and it was just making my headache worse. So I just laid down on the couch and I fell asleep there. I did not move off that couch for 5 days. I didn't need to go to the bathroom. I couldn't eat. I tried. The smell of everything made me want to puke. I even tried drinking water. I was throwing that up. I tried Jell-O. I was throwing that up. I couldn't keep anything down. And I took my temperature on the last night that I slept on the couch, and it was 107.4. I should have went into the fucking ER that night, but I thought, you know what? No, it's just, I'm sick. I'm just sick. I'll feel better tomorrow morning. I'm in all of this pain. And I managed to crawl to the stairs in the middle of the night and scoop myself up the stairs backwards, sitting down. That morning I had to pee so bad. And since I was upstairs, Nick didn't bring her down to me that morning before he left for work. He left her upstairs with me. So I slide down the stairs, and I'm in so much pain. It is excruciating just to move. There was no way I was standing up. No way. I go to the bathroom and I go pee, and it's like tar. It's thick and black and it's rancid. By the time, I'm done peeing, I realize there's something really fucking wrong with me. I should probably go to the ER. and my pain levels are so off of the scales that I need to go now. About the time I get done in the bathroom, I hear Alicia upstairs and she's screaming, and I can't get up there. I can't get back up to her. I don't have the strength. And then I heard the phone ring. So I'm like, oh, I can crawl out to the living room. Army crawl. Boom, drag, boom, drag, boom, drag. You know what I mean? And I get to the end table and I wiggle the end table enough. Thankfully, it wasn't very stable. And it knocked the handset out of the base, and I grabbed it and I called Nick, and there's no answer. So I called his mom and I told her, and I asked her to come get me and take me in. And she said, okay, I'm on my way. 15, 20 minutes go by. Nick finally calls me back and I tell him what's happening. He's rushing home. And his mom, I call her back to tell her she still hadn't left the fucking house. Well, he comes and gets me, and, he gets me put in to his truck. He carries me out there. And I'll be honest, this is the only time in our entire relationship that I actually felt like he gave a damn. And because of this, because of how he handled that situation, it made me lower my guard. It made me feel like I owed him for saving my life. I overheard the nurses talking when they were giving me the stuff to drink. They said if I waited one more day, I'd be dead. My kidneys were shutting down. I was going to be lucky if they could save them. They sent me to Munson, to another hospital, and they put me on a morphine drip and pretty much expected me to die. They're not sure how I didn't. They kept us in the hospital for several days. I almost spent Christmas in the hospital, and I told that hospital staff I wasn't going to spend my kid's first Christmas in a hospital room with her. I didn't want Nick to be alone with her is what it was. Because they only wanted her to stay with me for 2 days. And then after that, I was supposed to make arrangements for her to be somewhere else. They didn't want me to be breastfeeding because of the morphine. So, my daughter sent me a picture of a flamingo. It's so cute. Must be an art project she's working on. It's adorable. But anyway, so I get back home after that, and I was only allowed like 3 days. That's the average healing time that I was allowed before he would start getting grumpy and demanding that I get up and do shit. I think what I'll do is I'll cut this one here. I will get into the whole military thing later. I'm going to have to talk about how he proposed to me, though. I should probably do that in this one. So I'll do that, and then we'll stop, and I'll go to a part 2 with the military stuff. So how he proposed, right? He turns on this fucking movie Time Machine that he just happened upon on TV. It was on cable. It was almost over. And he's telling me about this movie, has me watch this movie, and then he goes upstairs and starts rummaging for things. I see through bullshit. I know what he's looking for. He's looking for his class ring because he's going to try and propose to me now. I wasn't impressed. He hollers down the stairs, "Where's my class ring?" Right where I fucking told you it was, because I knew what you were looking for. Well, I looked there and it's not there. So I walked exactly to where I told him it was, found it, took it upstairs to him, and was like, "Here you go." Turned around to walk away. He grabs my wrist, spins me around, chucks me on the bed, and then lays down on top of me and puts his forehead on mine, and I'm like going cross-eyed trying to just get my eyeballs to focus on him. He's too fucking close for me. And he's laying his whole body on top of me. And he's telling me that, we just had a baby. We need to get married. And he asks me to marry him. And I told him no. I told him no multiple times. And he just kept like saying these things that were cringy. They made me feel gross. He gave me the ick. And I just wanted it to end. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I'll just tell him yes. And then, I'll dip out before we can actually do that. So I told him yes after a good 15, 20 minutes of him laying on me, holding me down to the bed like this. And he's got my wrists pinned up here with his head here. So I'm literally holding all of his weight. And I wasn't very strong at that point in time. But I was like, yep, but I want you to understand this isn't going to be a short engagement. We're not going to run and get married tomorrow. Well, after I said that, he got up, was like, okay. I got up, went downstairs, and kind of like rubbed my arms and stuff, rubbed my leg, like trying to get the ick off of me, So that's how that went. He proposed very much like that. And I just told him what he wanted to hear to appease him in the moment. But really, I had no intention of marrying him at that point in time. None. And I made that clear to him, which is why he started the military stuff. And we'll get into that on the next one. So, I'm trying. So are you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So we can keep trying together. We'll get there eventually.